Every whiskey drinker has heard this one. Just give the bottle some time. It'll open up. Personally, I've always kind of looked at that as being complete bullcrap. I get it in premise, but I've never really done a side-by-side test to let me know if that was actually a thing or if it's just something polite that you say when you don't like a whiskey. So today I'm actually going to test it. I've got two bottles of the exact same single barrel, and not just any single barrel, a Hello Again Whiskey Friends single barrel selection. One of them that's been opened up for weeks, the other one that's going to be a fresh crack. Same whiskey, same barrel, same obsessed whiskey taster. If opening up is actually real, I should be able to find it today. So thank you for joining Whiskey Friends. Let's kick off the show. Hello again, Whiskey Friends. Thanks for joining, everybody. Today's video is going to serve a couple different purposes. A, we have a new single barrel selection on the way from Copper Cask, so we are going to go through the history of that barrel, the adventure of picking it, and then some of the flavor notes. I'm also going to turn today's tasting into a science experiment. So regardless if you are interested in our barrel or disproving some of the assumptions that we hear when people say something like, the whiskey just needs to open up more in the bottle. I have heard that as an excuse on so many bottles. Oh, it just needs to open up more. Oh, it just has to get past the shoulder. I'll be honest, a part of me is always like, that just sounds like bullcrap. And I had a realization with this Copper Cask. Given that I am in possession of a bottle that has been opened for quite a few weeks and is now to the point where I'm on the bottom third of the bottle, I also got in new bottles of this single barrel. So I can compare the one that's been open for weeks to a brand new one on the spot here for this video. Now, I think it's an interesting experiment and a lot of controls are in this because A, I'm using one of our own single barrel selections that quite frankly, when we get a single barrel, I become obsessed with it. So if there are differences, I am going to pick up on those right away and be able to articulate them. I also know that these bottles came from the exact same barrel, the exact same bottling line. All of those factors are contained. So it's not like we're comparing a batch product to another bottle of a batch product and wondering if they're going to taste the same. So for the whiskey itself here, we are going to be going over Copper Cask straight bourbon whiskey. And this is a single barrel selection called Rhode You Like a Hurricane. 10 years old and 126.4 proof. Note down here at the bottom, the MW at the front of the barrel number. We'll get back to that in just a moment. On the back, we've got the tater sticker for Rhode You Like a Hurricane. I'll tie that into more of the storyline when we talk about the background of this particular barrel and the barrel picking experience. This was distilled in Indiana, age stated 10 years, but as you can see here, it's just 2 months shy of 11 years. And it's the 36% mash bill coming out of MGP. All right, I'm going to pour these two bottles here into two different glasses, and I'm actually going to mark them with stickers. So these are getting poured into identical glasses. All right, so then on the stickers here, I'm going to do an N for new and an O for open. I put these on the bottom. And then what you can see here is that for the open one, I've only got a third of it left. So this has had plenty of time to open up. Whereas this one is going to be a 100% fresh crack. All right, so let's pour some in the open. So we'll pour the open one here. And then let's get this fresh crack going. Taking off the plastic and everything on this one. Pretty much what I've learned with our single barrel selections is that I typically go through 2 bottles in pretty rapid succession at the time that these things come out. A, just because I get so obsessed with it myself. It's like my favorite new thing in the world. But also get so excited to share it with people. So they get demolished pretty darn quick. But we'll pour the new in here. Levels are exactly the same. All right, so we've got identical glasses. I'm going to do a little randomization here. Then I'm going to put these to the side. And then we're going to talk about Copper Cask just a little bit more. So real quick on Copper Cask, here is the logo. I'll keep it on the screen so you can see it as we go through just a little bit of the history. But there are a lot of different brand names with either the word copper or Cooper. So I wanted to make sure you got this logo front and center. One of my favorite NDPs currently sourcing barrels today. Not only had they been sourcing great MGP from around the country, all from different states. Particularly fell in love with them on some of the first barrels they had that were from Florida. But they also do what they can to really keep the prices in a very, very consumer friendly range. We're talking $60 to $90, depending on what's in the blend and what's the age. The brand originally launched in 2021 and is owned by Latitude Beverage Company, who also owns Wheelhorse. We've worked up a good relationship with Stephen Corrigan over there at Copper Cask, who serves as the barrel master for the brand, and he's been in that role since 2022. Stephen originally came from 1-8 Distilling, who actually made and blended some of my favorite Untitles, which is a brand I was obsessed with anytime I visited the Chicago area. Now, in addition to the single barrels, this is actually now our second main release single barrel, though we have gotten our hands on 2 other short barrels. But in addition to single barrels, Copper Cask also does some very impressive small batches. I actually had batch 16 pop up in a blind review just recently, gave it a great score. Man, they get some great MGP, and Steven knows how to blend. Now, Copper Cask is located in Rhode Island, just like a mile away from Darrell, who is a co-host on the channel. So when Darrell found this out, he's been working up a relationship with those guys ever since. Darrell will be off work and we'll all be working, and he's just like sending us photos of like, hey, I'm at Copper Cask today, having fun. Like, thanks, Darrell. Trying to get some work done. But that does lead us to this particular barrel pick, Rhode You Like a Hurricane. Mentioned off the top, this is 10 years old, 36% rye, mash bill coming from MGP, 126.4 proof, and this will be available exclusively coming the Wednesday following the publishing of this video on shared pour for $89.99. If you're interested in hearing more about our barrel picks and what we do for the channel, you can check us out either on Patreon, joining the free tier, or choosing to support the channel, or we also have a private Facebook group. Links in the description for all of those. But this one is a collaboration pick between Hello Again Whiskey Friends, Dusty Dan Whiskey Reviews, Drifting Drams Coffee Company, and Bourbon of the Week. And we all met in February in person to do this pick on site in Rhode Island. Quite a big pick team on this one from all over the country. And of course, Rhode Island got hit by a blizzard this exact week, to the point where we didn't know, even up to the last minute, if our flights were even going to get us there. We were in contact with our Airbnb. None of the streets have been plowed yet, but they kept assuring me that by the time we got there, it would be fine. Got there on a Thursday. The streets just got plowed Thursday morning. So we were just by the hair of our chin on this entire experience. Now that leads to the sticker that you see over here, inspired by Ethan and Katie, who are Drifting Drams Coffee Company. They have one of those vans that they can, sleeper vans. That's, I guess, what you would call it, sleeper vans. They have one of those vans and they take it all around the country. And at some point they were driving through the state of New York, and Ethan was just cursing out Darrell. He's just like, Darrell, we're about to get stuck in this stuff. If you ever invite us back to Rhode Island in February, I might strangle you. So thus the vision of Ethan and Katie driving down the coast in Rhode Island through the snow, just off-roading it. And then, of course, you have Dusty Dan on top of it doing his Teen Wolf impression. Regardless if it's a blizzard or not, Dan will be in shorts and he will be in flip-flops. And thus the inspiration for Rhode You Like a Hurricane was born. Well, let's get into the whiskey here and let's get into our experiment. So we got the 2 glasses in front of us. One of them's been open for weeks and has only a third to now a fourth left, whereas the other one is a fresh crack. I'm not only going to be giving the tasting notes for this barrel pick, which are quite intriguing. I'm also going to be talking about then if I can distinguish the difference between these two as we go back and forth. But shout out to the amazing pick team that helped us bring home this amazing barrel. Also, shout out to Peter over at Copper Cask for helping us with this selection as well. All right. Cheers, everybody. Let's get into these. Man, I'll be honest, right off the nose, doing this A/B test here, one of them comes off more vibrant than the other. So maybe this will be a more interesting experiment than I was giving it any credit for. at the start of this. Yeah, one of them is actually meaningfully more vibrant. And what I mean by more vibrant, they're playing the same notes, just the volume on my right hand, the notes are turned up a notch compared to my left hand. Now, the standout on the nose of this particular barrel is going to be the level of oak and char combined with a essentially a blackberry syrup. Now, the more that you get into it, you get to these burnt layers of sugars as well as a custard, even getting essentially a creme brulee. The more this is opening up, I'm also starting to get hints of an orange peel as well as some lovely dark cherry, which for me on MGP, if I start getting the cherry notes again, I'm just in heaven. But despite me talking about the fruit range and the creme brulee, the core DNA of this particular barrel is very, very dark. That dark oak and that dark char are the main events there. On the nose, it's just held together by those bright notes and the sweetness to give it the balance. But what is interesting too, going back between these two glasses, the cherry note is not as prominent on my left hand as it is my right hand. The oak profile on my left hand as well is also denser, almost like it needs room to breathe. It's going to be interesting if the left hand ends up being the one that's the fresh crack. So let's get into the palate here. And I'm actually going to start out with my left hand on that one. We kind of came in with the nose on the right one. Let's give the left one a shot. Cheers, everybody. Oh, that was a great first sip. That's actually the first sip of the day, too. Oh my gosh. Lit me up with so much flavor there. On arrival, mouthfeel on this one is just near impeccable. So rich, so oily, so viscous, and immediately lights up the tongue with that dark, sweet oak along with those darker fruit reductions, the dark cherry, the blackberry. During the transition is when I start getting this lovely effervescence and start getting some of those orange notes combined with the cherry notes as well. So the fruits continue to come through and then it just roars into the finish. The finish is the highlight of the pour, bar none. Both the length of the finish, but the different rides that you'll get throughout the finish. All right, let's go in for another sip here before I do a comparison to the other glass. I mean, on the finish, it really does encompass everything I said about the nose. The burnt sugars, the creme brulee aspects, brings in some of that spiced natural vanilla. Get the blackberry reduction, the cherry reduction, little hints of the orange. But lo and behold, when it's all said and done, it's the oak. It's the oak combined with the char leaning profile. It is simply a very dark leaning whiskey, which was the standout moment when we were picking it in the first place. We were going back and forth between two barrels, and Peter, who helped us out with the pick, nailed the description. He was like, you know what? The one in my right hand is like a red dress, and the one in my left hand is like a black dress. We went with the black dress. Essentially, all the dark, all the oak, all that char being the black dress versus something that was really more bright fruit cherry leaning being the red dress. All right. I'm going to go in for a sip on the other glass and see if I can see the difference on the palate in the same way that I saw the nose. Cheers, everybody. So on the palate, the notes are the same. There's a bit more volume to some of the notes, though. It's actually a bit punchier in ways. I don't mean punchier as a negative, more the volume on certain notes just comes through a bit louder. Less distinction on the fruit, though, and more concentration on the sweet oak and the burnt sugars and the char on the creme brulee. But I'm actually getting a little less subtlety on the fruit profile with that distinction between the blackberry, the cherry, and the orange that I was talking about on the first sample. All right, now that I've gone through this entire experience, the one in my left hand feels more developed, but has less flavor and volume and punch in certain places. Whereas the one in my right hand has these louder spikes, but does feel less complex by comparison. All right, I'm gonna go one more sip on the right one here and make sure I don't see anything else. Cheers. These are both very, very good, drastically, surprisingly different on particularly the fruit related notes. So there's a difference going on between it having time to open up or not. If I were to take a guess, just based purely off of what I'm saying here. The more developed one is in my left hand because it doesn't have those spikes and it's got the more complex fruit profile. And I'm going to guess the right hand that has more volume to it in terms of the notes that are kicking above the rest, but has less refinement and less of the fruit dynamic and complexity going on. It kind of weirds me out a little bit, honestly, doing this whole experiment because it almost hints at the fact that when I choose to record the tasting notes that I then do on our posts, the timing actually has an impact there on when I should do it on the bottle. So I need to be more strategic. I mean, I typically wait till I'm a fourth of the way through the shoulder, I guess. But I didn't expect it to actually impact the flavor notes, I'll be honest. All right, let's moment of truth. I mean, I'm sitting here jabbering. Moment of truth. I think this hand is the new, this hand is the open. So this should have an N on, yep. So there's the N on the bottom of that one, which means that one's the open. So yeah, okay, so not bullcrap. Does change when it opens up. Like the orange isn't even present on the new one on the nose. It's only on the opened up one. This is the type of experiment that's just gonna mess with me for a while, by the way. I should not have done this. I think what also weirds me out about this experiment is that there's aspects of either glass that I like more than the other. But regardless, I guess that does mean in my sample size of one here, yeah, the opening up thing is totally a real thing. And to do this experiment side by side with a fresh crack on the exact same single barrel that I am so familiar with is messing me up. Now, I forgot to mention one thing at the front of our video here, but on the bottle, the MW. So when it's an MF, that be from Florida, sometimes it says DC. MW is actually West Virginia. So I'll let you do your own mental math on where this barrel came from. West Virginia, somebody who would have old MGP. If you think you got the answer, put it in the comments. I won't speculate here. But this bottle comes out this week as of recording and posting. Keep an eye on Facebook and Patreon for more updates and tasting notes. Check us out on Dusty Dan live on Monday, as well as Hello Again Whiskey Friends live on Wednesday, where we'll be going over this more and more going into the launch. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.